tell you what got them there and others don't. But I'm gonna tell you what got me here. Shelby called this summer. I was knee deep with my husband in trying to renovate a University Terrace apartment, which had been student housing. God help us. It was a disaster. And we bought this as investment property, and my husband is so convinced that he's gonna be dying soon that we needed to get it renovated now. Get renters in there, we had to do it now. I'm like, why now? We've put it off 9 years. What's a few more? So Shelby called, and we were in the middle of doing that renovation, so I was so excited to get to step outside and take a phone call and not be doing the painting and the flooring and the cabinets and scrubbing and doing, that I think it might have been a weak moment for her as well as myself. I have always felt like when a good friend calls, you answer, unless they're a relative. Because you know they're not just calling to check on you, they're calling to ask for something. But when you have good friends like you have here, and like I have, and have the relationships that have been built, you tend to trust someone with a lot of personal things in your life. Well, I showed up for Institute one year and had just had a personal moment at school. I did a dumb thing and volunteered because I thought I was going to be getting in the good graces of my principal because I had said something that had made her mad, and so I was trying to get back on her good side because I only speak the truth. So I had volunteered to work the pre-K screening at school. I teach 5th grade. I don't have a lot of dealings with ankle biters. I stayed in my place on the other side of the school and just steered clear of them. Now, I would mess with those children in the hall, get them in trouble, go, what you do, things like that, and the teacher would turn around and I'd act like I wasn't doing anything. Well, we had this very special young lady come in to be screened with her grandmother. And the little girl, I didn't notice all that much about the little girl that was unique until she stepped past me to a hallway, and she looked down the hall with the lady that was taking her to do her screening, and she turned around, and evidently she and I bonded. She turned around and looked at me and said, "What the whale?" I mean, this little girl is 4 years old. What the whale? I realized 2 things. One, somebody had cussed a lot in front of her. And number 2, she had a serious speech impediment. So she immediately qualified. Well, I came, and the more I thought about it, and the guidance counselor, we tried to be cool, because we didn't want to offend anybody. So I didn't get to debrief. So I came pretty much straight here, and I'm talking to Shelby about what the whale. So I go around the whole institute, and that was like our little funny was, what the whale. So when what the whale. So and we still do that.
We do.
I know, you do it more than I do, but that's after institute, she might be saying what the whale a whole lot more. So when Shelby asked me to talk, I couldn't think of a better way to come up with a title. What the H, GFWC? It's not what you would think. It could be, but it's not. And I also would like to point out the picture that I used for this heading was after I had highlighted my own hair. And I thought I did a really good job. Thank you so much. It blended in well with the gray, so I thought, so my husband was giving me a hard time, so I had my little cousin take my picture. And then I realized that's the dress I'm wearing tomorrow. So just act like you didn't see that. So I just want to take just a few minutes, and I'll try not to make too much fun, but I can't help it, so I'll just tell you that right up front, of my own self. And and my own GFWC journey, and kind of how I got here and how people have gotten me to where I am. They might not want to take credit for that, especially on evenings like this. But the number one person that I would have to start with is my mother-in-law, Garland. She's the lady pictured in the middle, and this was a picture at our wedding reception. Now, and that's me and my baby husband. Don't it look sweet? It was the big hair 80s, what can I say? We got married at Hopewell Baptist Church, and our wedding reception was at the Seneca Woman's Clubhouse in downtown Seneca, where my mother-in-law was the current president. We got back from our honeymoon. Before we moved to Aiken, she said, "There's one thing you've got to do." And I said, okay. She said, "You gotta join the woman's club." And I said, "Okay." And my husband said, "What?" And I said, "Well, your mama said so." He said, "Well, okay." So I paid my $25, I signed some paper, and then she politely told me that I had to drive back up from Aiken the next Thursday to go to Reciprocity, where we were gonna all walk around and hold little glass plates and eat pettifors and drink punch. Okay. So I drove up. My husband didn't say a thing about that, but I drove up, and while standing in line to get my punch and my pettifors, I'm really a cake fanatic, so it was okay. A young girl, saw me in line, and she said, "Tammy, what are you doing here?" Well, I thought I was supposed to be there. She said, "You don't need to be in the woman's club." I kind of let it go to see what kind of better offer she had. And she said, "You need to join the Seneca Junior Women's Club. You're young." I was like, okay. So I became a dual membership. One of the few that they had. I was blazing a trail. So I was first a member of Seneca Women's Club, but then I joined the Seneca Junior Women's Club, where I promptly learned to cook the best food of my life and take it to other people. Always put balloons and celebrate other people on their mailboxes, even if they weren't having a baby. And paint fire hydrants. Painting fire hydrants, my very first year in the Seneca Junior Women's Club, was one of the most important and valuable things I ever did in all of Women's Club. I learned other people. I met other people. I learned I wasn't a very good painter. But I bonded over a fire hydrant. Now, who in their life can say that? You became somebody and part of something over a fire hydrant. It wasn't just the fire hydrants, I was part of a team. I had sisterhood. I belonged. Now, that was big for a girl that didn't typically and wouldn't typically belong to a group like that, because I thought that was just reserved for those girls, not girls like myself, girls who were born to teenage parents, who lived in the basement of their grandparents' house, who could drive a John Deere tractor backwards through the cornfields and not run over a daggum stalk. Not girls like me. But yes, it was. And I would like to say, my husband says, I have risen to every pay raise he's ever gotten. You gotta start somewhere. You might as well start where you're born. So, I give Leanne Parker credit, because she was that young woman that pulled me out of line and said, you need to join the Junior Women's Club. Leanne Parker and I now host and sponsor Special Friends Camp together. All these years later. We're not still in club together, but we were club women and kindred spirits from the word go. Okay, so, moving along. I only have 50 slides. I'm joking. I'm just joking. 98, 89 to 98, that's isn't that a palindrome? I've been out of school a little bit. So, I did the right thing. My club members did the right thing. They got me involved. I served in every capacity. I served on, except for treasurer, because I only do two things with money, and that's spend it and lose it, and people laugh, but that's serious. So you don't let those people be your treasurers. And I loved it. I loved every part except selling pecans, but that's another story for another time. I talked to a group about that earlier. I had just finished being president of the Seneca Junior Women's Club, which I was so proud. And Jackie Bowling came up to me at a state meeting and said, "You need to be district president." And I said, "Okay." I didn't have a clue. I'd been to state meetings, I didn't pay attention. I was always cutting up in the back of my friends. You know, straightening up when we get called down or somebody cleared their throat. We knew that was directed at us because I was raised Baptist, so I knew when somebody cleared their throat, somebody was cutting up in the sanctuary. So I became district president. I love that. And I was like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I don't know if I was or not, but I tried to convince others that I was. I think other people were just happy that someone was willing to serve. But I was asked to do it. Not very long after I finished serving as district president, the juniors decided that I had sucker written across my head, and that Jackie and I, they knew we already had a relationship. Jackie was going to be president, so I was going to be junior director. And Jackie and I became a team to reckon with. Jackie, I would talk, and Jackie would shake her head. To this day, this still happens. She rolls her eyes. She goes, "Oh my." And she'll say, no. I can hear her under her breath sometimes like, "Oh, Tammy, don't go there. No. But Jackie and I became fast friends. And when Jackie was state president and I was junior director, we always roomed together. And the other juniors would say, "Why are you rooming with your state president?" I said, "Well, I kind of like her. And she asked me to do this. So why would I not hang out with her?" So, continued on. During being junior director, I got pregnant. It was an accident. I had just sold or given away every baby thing I had from my 7-year-old child, because the doctors had assured me this body would never get pregnant. Don't believe doctors when they tell you things like that. They are medical professionals, but they are not God. And don't test him on stuff. The only thing I had kept was a crib. You don't really need a crib. They just climb out of it. So I was just loved and embraced by these women as I waddled around, hot and ill and pregnant at 32 and wondering what in the heck happened. But I loved being junior director. There were several things I had never done when I became junior director. I had never flown in an airplane. That was shocking to a lot of them. I had never ridden in a taxi cab. That was shocking to me the first time I did it. I have a picture with the cab driver because Jackie Boland took a picture. He didn't speak English. I had never been to our nation's capital. And I had never been a lot of places. Well, when I signed on to be junior director, I started going places. I started seeing things and meeting people, and I was a force to be reckoned with because I had wheels on my honey and I wanted to go. I just didn't have the funds to back up that wish. Well, Precious Matt was born August 14th. So June of that year was International Convention in Boston. And I looked like a beached whale. As I went to get on the airplane, they stopped me and said, "How many weeks are you?" You know when they ask you that, you look bigger than you probably really are. But they let me fly, and I remember walking down the aisle, carrying the South Carolina flag, with my gloves on, and hearing the whispers, "She's huge." Oh my gosh. Like I didn't know I was pregnant. My friend, my dear, dear friend, Marion St. Clair, I walked out of the hotel room to go down for one of the banquets in Boston. And she said, and I will quote, and if you quote me on this quote, I will kill you. She said, "Dear God, you look like a shotgun bride." I had gone to motherhood. That's where you went to buy your good stuff when you were pregnant. So I went to motherhood and had gotten an ivory, silk dress, formal. Picture it. I thought I was looking good. I was in there putting my lipstick on, and then there was Marion. I never quite got over that, but I wore that same dress to state convention, and it wouldn't zip. Just right after that. So, I had a great time. And if I've talked to any of you, you know, I don't know, I'm kind of not into much of anything unless there's going to be a little fun in it. If you tell me something, then this is not going to be fun, I'm out. I will find a way to get out. I will just not show up. I'll get a cough, a terrible cough, or you know, my dog will need me. So what happened next was probably the most critical thing, and I want you all to be aware of this next slide, because this is the most important. After I had Matt, it was the dead years. I was barely keeping my head above water. Taking care of a 7-year-old, taking care of a baby, teaching school, trying to remain active in the Seneca Junior Women's Club, trying to make my mother-in-law happy by showing up at every little function that the Seneca Women's Club had. And I just did not have time in my life for one more thing. And it was, you know, anything else beyond my small circle. And I was just merely existing. I really was. But women started reaching out to me and pestering me, like sending me these cute cards. You know, and they send you some little cute pen in the mail. We had a meeting, you know, down in Columbia, and we missed you. You know, your bright and smiling face just wasn't there, and it wasn't the same. See, that's harassment. And they would say stuff like, "Oh, you know, we hope you'll consider running for office. We know you can do it." Or they'd say things like, "We believe in you." Or, here's the best one, "We support you. We will support you." Dang it. So, I mustered up the courage and told my husband that I was going back to a state meeting, and he said, "Oh." So I re-engaged, but if they had not reached out to me, I probably would have stayed disengaged. They got me, they kept me for a little while, and then I had an opportunity to not go back. What I would have missed by not going back. And I say all that to say, pastor people, send them some cute little card. We don't do that enough anymore. Send them a text. Send them a selfie of you and me together and say, look what you missed. She was fabulous. And she was almost free. Okay, you all right?
Yeah.
The very first meeting I went back to, the very first one, back to a state meeting, they had a plan. And they had hatched it before I got there. They were gonna convince me to run for state secretary. Now, I had just been in the dead zone for 2 years, living the good life. So, they asked me, it was Jackie Boland, and it was Nancy Boozer, it was all the heavy hitters. Janet Agnew, Livonia Hendricks, all the women that I did not know how to form the words to say no to. So they were smart. You know, and some of them are really sweet, and some of them are kind of gruff, and some of them are just downright scary. And I just didn't want to make them mad. So I said, okay, but what do I have to do? They said, that's all right, your club's already written a letter of endorsement, and we have it. And then I was like, what? Yes, they had contacted my club, unbeknownst to me, and gotten it all lined up. Because they knew me. Because if they hadn't done that, I would have said, okay, and I probably would have put them off. So, persistence is important too. I moved right on up the state level. And I told them, I stood there and told those ladies that day, that very day, I cannot be someone I'm not. You know, if you're asking me to serve, this is what you get. And Jackie said, oh. And Jackie turns to him and she said, she can be really good. I know she can. She can be really good. And she can do this. And I believe in her. So off I went. Well, along about 2006, my husband got really sick. And I say really sick. You understand what that means. He was dying. And we ended up in Greenville Hospital. We had gone 3 days. I had not slept. They were trying to get him into emergency surgery. No platelets, no blood matches. He was testing Coombs positive. His body was killing itself. We were in a tragic set of circumstances. Marion St. Clair and Tim St. Clair kept vigil at the hospital with me 24/7. They never left my side. One of them was at my side all the time. The night that they finally took David into surgery, they told him that his chances of surviving surgery were very, very slim. And of course, him being left brain analytical, he wanted to know a number. Well, I knew he was hanging in there pretty good because he wanted to know a number. And the doctor said, no, I'm not. He said, but whoever you know that will pray for you, whoever you can call on, you need to call on them. And he said, they need to get on their knees. He said, because we're taking you in. And we do not have enough blood, and we do not have enough platelets. Boy, that's a way to send you to the operating room, isn't it? You know, and I was blurry-eyed at that point. Just totally could not think straight. At about 2 a.m., they had taken me down with him to prep for surgery because they were letting me stay with him to the very last second because he had a nurse. He was telling her our passcodes. He was telling her what bank we banked at. he was telling her all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, we do not bank there. We got an account there. I mean, you know. And so they finally took him into surgery. They put an arterial line in. They let me stay for that. They take him into surgery. And I kissed him goodbye. And I said, I will be here when you come out. Well, I was okay, I thought. Oh, here it comes. Got off the elevator upstairs. They said, you go back to the room that we took him from. We will call you in that room and tell you what's going to happen next. Opened the elevator doors, and pretty much everybody had given up. We had been downstairs about 3 hours of them trying to go, no go, okay, let's do it, no, we're not going to do it, you know, back and forth. The elevator doors opened, and there stood Jackie Boland. And all she did was said, I'm here for you. And honey, I burst into tears. It was ugly snot crying like you have never seen. And behind her was Lori O'Kelly, and Marion St. Clair, and Tim St. Clair. My family was taking care of my children, so they were not there for me. That kind of sisterhood, our minister was there, yes, he was there, by the way, too. But that kind of sisterhood and that kind of friendship, you can't build that, I don't think, anywhere else. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in this world. Now, here's the catch. I feel indebted to them, and I can't ever repay them for what they did for me. Now, I've heard stories amongst y'all of those of you in here that have your woman's club sister, your go-to girl. Over the weekend, I've heard of a number of you. And the other night, I heard of a good one. Don't you be crying on me up here. That's the way it's supposed to be. But you can get yourself all wrapped up in business. You can get yourself all wrapped up in those things that create those differences in us. And you can miss out on the good stuff. And that's what we've got to hang on to, and that's what we've got to not let go. Now, business is important, and doing all that is very important. But you have to make sure, more than anything, that you're cultivating that love and friendship among each other. It has to happen. If you got a beef with somebody, then settle it. Do whatever you have to do. Don't carry a grudge. You can get mad at your family all day long, just don't get mad at your woman's club members. And I'll end with this. I was trying to think of what during me being state president, just a quick snip, what were the highlights for me? And not one single business meeting came to mind. It was when, okay, you can barely see in the upper left-hand corner, it's Joanne Bolches, past state president, and the one holding the scarf over her face that makes her look like she's holding a burqa was Jackie Boland. They were laughing at me because I was carrying a thing of cotton candy. It was a cotton candy tower. I don't know, I have a really big sweet tooth, and I tripped. Where do you think the cotton candy went? It was like a pie in the face. It was so funny. And Jackie was trying her best not to laugh at me because she knew she was going to have to get that cotton candy out of my shirt because I had to wear it 6 more times in the next 5 days. The Rock Hill Junior Women's Club, I was standing with them to take a picture, and they decided it'd be funny to pick me up. Caroline Brown, dancing with her, I had on, you can't see it, but I had on a cowskin skirt that I can't get one leg in now, so I'm real proud of that picture. The bottom left-hand corner are 3 teachers and my principal. They showed up at a meeting when I was state president. They're in the Wahala Women's Club, and they kept making this little motion at me. And I was like, what the heck are y'all doing? I mean, they're just being cute, and it was all funny, and so I went to them and I said, do that again. I snapped their picture. And they informed me that it was a flock of birds. You know, that kind of bird. I thought they were like waving at me. Okay. The middle picture just tears me up every time I see it. My little junior women's club, I didn't think they cared anything too much about me. I had joined and helped start the Golden Corner Women's Society. But the Junior Women's Club secretively got my family and friends together. I'm extended family. There's a couple of neighbors in there. And in the back, in the pink blouse on the left, is my mother-in-law. And they paid and booked them rooms at the hotel where I was being installed as president. And had them all come. Now, that was another one. Because I said, oh, that means so much to me. Who's paying for their food? The upper right-hand corner, Ida, where were we when you bought your son the little miniature baseball bat? Was that Chicago? Okay, we were watching it. No, it was before that. It was the Indian. Cleveland. It was in Cleveland. I know. Sorry. We've seen a lot of things. We've been a lot of places. I've flown a lot and ridden in some cabs. We were watching a drug deal bus go down out of our hotel window, and we were on about the 16th floor. And I'm the cute one in the white top and the jeans standing on top of the bed with my hair in a bunch of curls because I looked really good. But we were trying to tell the police where the guy threw the drugs because we saw him do it. Community improvement. We have laughed about that for years. We were all late for the banquet because we were doing a community service project. And a really proud moment for me was getting to escort Marion St. Clair in to be installed in Omaha in her first leg of her international adventure. But I say all this to say, it's all about the people. It's all about the friendships. It's a little about the business. And I appreciate you letting me come and share. I have so many secrets about so many people in this room that I will be able to talk forever in the future. I promise to not use your name, maybe. And if I get any royalties or kickbacks from it, I will pass those along to you. So you'll be looking for those in a card. Thank you so much.